We have almost 24 companies in 20 countries and 4 continents. Products are marketed in 5 continents and over 15 countries. So you see, we are acting on a global scale. And when you look at our ingredients, we are using more than 1,000 natural ingredients and using around 300 plant species. We are really acting globally and also in our supply chain. So when we come to our founding impulse, which is very important for our acting and the way we make business since 100 years, we had 3 heads, Mr. Rudolf Steiner, Dr. Ita Wegmann, and Dr. Oskar Schmiegel, who founded the company with the target of providing medicine to everyone who needs it. And like from the beginning, the aspect of caring, activism, and also entering and making a totally different kind of business than usual at that time was the target, and was kind of the delight for our company and the way we act and the way we do business ever since. So what I mentioned in the beginning was that the world has changed within the last 100 years. So when we started, we tried to act as a pioneer. We tried to differentiate ourselves from other businesses and also integrate the world and the society in the way we make business. And now after 100 years, we felt that this is not enough. When we looked at the world around us, we realized that we change the way we make business and really go into context-orientated way of making business. And context-orientated business, I mean that we that we really want to use the Sustainable Development Goals, that we want to use the planetary boundary system, the multi-capital scorecard, and also new ways like the X-degree compatibility, which is a great idea and reference in terms of how climate friendly is our business actually working. And we had a deeper look at that and found out that it's not ready yet for our kind of business, but it's definitely something that will be becoming more important for us in the future. What content orientation also means is that we really want to be and acting responsible to the external human, societal, cultural, social, and ecological challenges that faced us in the past, but also in the present and the future. So what we realized is that we really want to change from the I perspective to the world perspective. And as a result of this, we came up with a plan for the future as a result of many dialogues and with many internal and external stakeholders. And we made the following pledge. We made the following pledge. The pledge we said is that we want to become a company that invests 1% of the annual turnover for doing good for the planet. And the 4 major aspects of this are living soils. We want to support living soils. We want to use biodiversity as a very strong aspect in our future acting. We want to support our governance with the target to become a B Corp. We want to go further into the inclusive reporting. And there's one further aspect. It's also the major aspect of today's remaining minutes is the climate protection. How do we tackle this? That means that from next year on, we will invest more than 400 million euros a year in these 4 fields of action. So we started with a first analysis. So we said that as a basis for a climate protection program, we need our climate balance sheet. So we started with the first rough but still relevant analysis of our carbon footprint, and we went further than other companies go at that point. So we really said we want to look at all three scopes, and especially at scope 3, we want to also look at those aspects that not everyone looks at, with focus, for example, on the use of products and the entire financial footprint. So we found that we have scope 1 and 2 emissions of around 10,000 tons of CO2 equivalents, and our pledge is to go net zero in this regard. We found that on the product level, we want to become net zero from 2022 on, and the relevant aspects there are scope 1 and 2, of course, and the relevant aspects of scope 3, which are in the end the energy footprint of processes, emissions, then transports, raw materials, and also advertising materials, packaging, end-of-life treatment, business travel, and also commuting. So, and according to the analysis, this sums up to around 100,000 tons of CO2 a year. As you can see here, 1% refers to like 12,400 tons. So our full set of emissions lies at around 1.2 million tons of CO2, which is a huge amount. And when we said, okay, we want to address scope 1 and 2 and the product level, what happens with the remaining scope 3 emissions? And we said we also want to address this, even though it's indirect emissions, but we still look at it as an extended co-responsibility. So we said that we want to reduce our emissions in this regard by 250,000 tons of CO2. And this includes employees, so by the money they receive, the finances part, and also the product use. So plan and proceed. How do we want to proceed, and what's the concrete plan? When we look at the climate balance sheet, I said we want to start with the smallest part, like scope 1 and 2. We want to go there by investing in green buildings and really push forward the use of regenerative energy. When it comes to the product level, we want to reduce the emissions by the increase of efficiency and innovations in product design, in the production process, and in our logistics process. And the reduction of energy consumption and also generation of waste should be a very strong reduction point. Then we want to invest in less climate harming packaging, using more recyclable packaging and also new materials. And the rest we want to do by insetting of emissions along our own supply chain. And what we can do, we will address by offsetting. And then on the level of use of products, we want to really activate our consumers by showing them what they can do. The most important part here is the duration of shower, how they use our products, and also using an app for activating the consumers. On the level of finance, which is 14% of our overall CO2 emissions, we want to start an initiative for climate-friendly finances, including our Weleda pension funds. And as least, we also want to have our employees involved, because with the wage they receive from Weleda, they also are responsible for emissions, and we also want to activate them by using an app. So as example for scope 2, 1 and 2, use of renewable energy, from this moment on, or like from this year, from this month on, we are using only renewable energy in all our own buildings at the headquarters in Switzerland. I will not go through this because it takes too much time, but just that
you have 5 minutes left, myself,
okay.
Just so you know.
Perfect. So you can see we already start with this renewable energy aspect, so that we can say at headquarters we use solely renewable energy. And we extend this to the world because we said as a strategic goal by the end of 2020, in all our buildings around the globe, we want to have 80% of renewable energy in all buildings. And as a further Lighthouse project, we plan to build a new logistics center in Switzerland, in Germany. The groundbreaking is planned for late 2021, and it will be built according to the highest sustainable construction standard, which is called DGNB Platinum. And this is going to be our latest project in sustainable and green buildings. So I mentioned an app. This app is called Kojo, and we start in a pilot in the German-speaking part of the European market. And with this app, we invite people to see the direct impacts of their acting in terms of CO2 emissions. So they can, using this app, they can really make decisions in order to reduce their daily CO2 emissions. One aspect in creating carbon sinks is the aspect why we also want to include biodiversity and living soils. We see living soils and biodiversity as really carbon sink with a high potential. So we really want to promote this. And our plan is to increase the share of organic raw materials deriving from regenerative agriculture at the level of more than 80% from 22 on. The same with the biodynamic raw materials. We want to increase our share to up to 40% and implementing also new Weleda biodiversity action plan. As two examples on how we are going to do insetting in our own supply chain, where we try to integrate biodiversity, healthy soils, and climate protection. We can mention the BOS, Borneo Orangutan Survival Program, where we fight the deforestation of rainforests in Borneo. And our colleagues in the UK support the Tree Sisters project with the ambitious goal to plant more than 1 million trees around the world where it's mostly needed. And planted so far with Weleda support are more than 70,000 trees, which is quite relevant number. So one last Lighthouse project is our Living Soil Journey. This is an associated program with a organization called Project Together from Germany and other partners, where we invite people to join us in 8 public dialogues, as well as boot camps, where we speak about existing and new initiatives and business ideas around regenerative agriculture, biodiversity, and soil conservation. It's public, so you can join as well. You can find that on LinkedIn. And so from the 8 public online dialogues, the first started in May, and the last one will take place in October. So feel free to join. I think it's absolutely worth it. And so for the last point, how do we publish what we plan to do? We use, of course, our annual sustainability report, and where you can also find many of the climate details I just presented. And from next year on, we will have an own program report on our 1% program. And from 2025 on, we integrate, we try to integrate what we do into new inclusive report systems like context-oriented multi-capital, or as I mentioned, the Planetary Boundaries Initiative. So that's it. I think that was a lot of information, but one key message that we want to really give to you is that, as Gandhi said, be the change that you wish to see in the world. So if you want to address the aspect of climate change in your company, go ahead and do whatever you feel that needs to be done. It will be rewarded. So thank you for your attention, and I'm open for questions now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcel. It was incredibly insightful. It was great to hear about Weleda's ambitious targets. I think there's a really strong message here in telling businesses to actually dare to look at their impact, as it might show some surprising results, even if it's tricky, even if it brings up some uncomfortable conversations. But these are also great opportunities to transform a business. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to indeed open up the floor for questions for you, Marcel. I would like to add that Stefan Seymour, Head of Corporate Sustainability at Weleda, is also in the audience, and we thank him for being here, and he will join our discussions now. So as people continue sending in their questions from the chat, I might start with one question, that is, what conversations has this process brought up internally at Weleda, and how has this been a force for positive change and transformation?
I will love to answer on that, because what we realized that once we started the project, we had so many positive feedback from all kinds of areas within the company. So it really started a very intense dialogue. It was so powerful. It really enhanced our ambition as company for doing good, that it really supported us in making important decisions also on the highest level of the company decision makers. And when I look back at the process, I really have to say that it was a fantastic experience to see that everyone at the company really wants to be part of it, and was looking forward to support the 1% program. So maybe Stefan wants to add some words. No?
Okay, great. Thank you. I see there are a few questions coming in through the chat. There is a question about how to achieve net zero emissions for scopes 1 and 2. And I think this is one of the targets that you mentioned, Marcel, for 2022, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe we can go a little bit more into detail on what are the actions that are planned here.
Do I show the correct slide now? So the question was, how do we address scope 1 and 2 emissions? Or
right, and if there's a target for net zero.
Yes, the target is, in fact, maybe I have to go back to this. We really plan to go net zero from this year on the level of scope 1 and 2. And as I said, one measure is clearly to thrive to 100% renewable energy. And the other thing is, where we can't act on our own, we have to do offsetting.
Okay, thank you. And I think you also spoke about insetting. Is this part of scope 1 and 2?
Insetting is actually something that we will use for scope 3 emissions, because I think, as much as I know, insetting is something that's mostly allowed for scope 3 emissions. That means that we really try to create carbon sinks along our own supply chain. So we will look in our programs with our partners, where we have agricultural partners, agricultural projects, and really want to use that power, that opportunity, really to do our own business better, which is also in line with the articles of association by the idea of B Lab or B Corp, that you really do good in your own business. That's our idea.
Okay, thank you. And I think this actually Oh, sorry, Stefan, go ahead, please.
Just would love to add something and invite you to have a look at the big picture, because certainly for me the crucial question behind is it from a logic point or scientific point possible to go net zero or to become really carbon positive? And we are industry, so there will always be some emissions somewhere. And now we have built a lighthouse, for example, of pathway, solution pathway of regenerative energy in our big production site in Switzerland. So this is quite good now, but it's not climate positive. Certainly there are some emissions. And, but this is the best one, to go to regenerative energy. The next pillar is certainly efficiency. We have started many small efficiency programs, most of them related to production. And the third one, as Marcel mentioned, is a big thing about offsetting, and we don't like offsetting. But when it comes to the number of 100,000 tons CO2 equivalents per year, we can do this without making offsetting. And our key target is to do as much as we can by insettings, so that we build carbon sinks along our own agricultural supply chains. And this program was decided late April this year. So at the moment we are screening partners. We have already found some credible partners, and certainly we have the big advantage that we have big agricultural supply chains, and we really screen everything that is suitable, but we don't want to buy carbon credits on an anonymous market. This is not our value system. And the fifth pillar, which is not described quite often, is innovation. So we don't know how, but we are very confident that there are new solutions in 2 or 3 years for tackling the climate problem, and we want to innovate. And this certainly could develop two completely new business models. When you look at the 58% use rate, we cannot force anyone to shower just 2 minutes. We seduce our customers to take long showers because they love our products. But what's about, for example, to make a cooperation with Tinder and say, okay, swipe right and shower together, or go in cooperation with bathroom suppliers or with energy suppliers. So this is really a call for collaboration and cooperation between companies and business models to involve the big impact areas.
Thank you very much, Stefan. It's interesting that you highlight that one can move forward with confidence, all the while acknowledging that we don't have all the answers yet, but that they will come along the way. I think that's also a very powerful message. So I think it's time for us to move into group discussions. I'm sorry for the questions that we weren't able to cover today. We would like to give you some space to discuss and exchange about your own experiences, and here is how it's going to work. We're going to split you into several smaller groups. Once you've arrived in your breakout rooms, we'll send you a list of links to access the virtual boards that we've prepared for you, that I will show you in just a minute. So here are the virtual boards, and you'll be assigned a specific room. You can see there are several rooms, so you can zoom into these boards. You have one per group, and you can use the different post-its that are here. So once you're in your breakout room, just click on the link that corresponds to the room number that you've been assigned. We have a little under 20 minutes for this. It's quite short, so please be mindful of time. We'll start with a couple of minutes for everyone to individually reflect on where they stand for each of the 4 Ps along the same structure that's been presented today: pledge, plan, publish, and proceed. And then you will go around your rooms, and each participant will share their experiences and insights for a total of 10 minutes. So once you are there, please introduce yourselves to the other people who are in the room with you. And here we go. I'll send you into breakout rooms right now. So we're slowly reaching the end of this session. I know it was short. I hope you had time to scratch the surface of these complex topics. I think you actually had some time to discuss directly with Marcel and Stefan, which is really great. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and sharing today. A big thank you to Marcel Locher and Stefan Siemer for joining us and sharing Weleda's journey. I'd like to end this gathering by acknowledging the fact that business leaders are facing decisions that are unprecedented. Putting the planet first calls for new ways of doing business. It calls for big and bold steps, and it calls for action now. So we wish you strength and courage in tackling your climate actions starting today, and I hope you feel inspired and energized by the stories you've heard. I wish you a great summit. I hope that you can attend other sessions, and I encourage you to connect on LinkedIn or other platforms after the end of this session. Marcel or Stefan, would you like to add anything?
Well, I hope you could get some ideas from our process. I hope that you could see that it's really important to go for the full view, for the full perspective, full transparency, because this actually shows you where are your actual relevant fields of action, and use this I call it inconvenient truth, but use this opportunity to really find out more about new fields of opportunities. Stefan mentioned it. Completely new ways on how to react, and really go for it. Be brave.
Thank you, Marcel. I would 100% underline every word. And just one more thing is what we found out is I guess the CEO from BlackRock asked for this last year, that he asked for something like climate literacy of the executive boards and boards of directors. And this BlackRock argument even was an argument in our company. And I'm so happy that we now have discussions with our executive board on a really high scientific level, that they're really asking, so what is exactly part of the product carbon footprint and why? How do you argue? And I think this will be a shift in the next years, that there is more climate literacy on every management level in the companies. That the greenwashers don't have so much opportunities like now. That we really say you can communicate everything, but you have to define what are you talking about, and be very precise and be very transparent about what you don't know.
Thank you. I completely agree. I think empowering everyone with the knowledge of what it actually means to have set a net zero target, for example, is actually giving them the tools to engage. And this way you really engage all the team at all the levels. I think this is one of the questions that was in this session. So thank you once more for joining us today. And I wish you a fantastic rest of the summit. Thank you, Stefan and Marcel, and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good luck,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.